Over the past few years in particular, we've noticed what was already a fantastic car in terms of value, this generation of Range Rover Sport that is, getting even better, because their prices even up around £20,000 to £25,000 were already fantastic on the used market. Now though, in comparison, they're even better. Take this as a prime example, and certainly an example with an extremely high level of spec, which isn't too surprising given that it is of course an Autobiography dynamic model as well of that facelift generation 2016 Range Rover Sport. It's finished of course in full rhodium silver, including, and this is quite a rare touch, having the matching silver roof as well, with of course ebony leather inside as well. Clean, classy, a very, very good looking car. But now, this exact car, which has only just kissed 105,000 miles, and of course has more than enough service history to back that up, in fact a full service history, more of which we'll touch on in a second, proving, as we've said many times, that these cars are capable of that and much more when they're taken care of as they should be, such as this one has. This car though is under £17,000. Of course it still has the option, if you wanted to use it, of low deposit financing to of course spread out that cost, but even if you didn't, that's an astonishing amount of car for the money, and being of course the 3-litre SD V6, well, simply put, it is the most efficient and the most economical engine you can find in this era of the Range Rover. In fact, consider its spec: 300 horsepower on the one hand, 516 foot-pounds of torque, that's around 700 newtons of pulling power, and since sometimes it can be difficult to quantify what that kind of torque really means, comparing that for example to something like a 6-litre, so double the size engine, a W12 twin-turbo Bentley for example, has about 480 foot-pounds, again in comparison to this car's 560. Of course, unlike a Bentley though, its fuel economy is actually shockingly good, certainly for a vehicle with the kind of kit and the kind of space which you would want from a full-time four-wheel drive Range Rover. Up to 40 miles per gallon on average is probably quite a lot better than you would think these would be capable of. Of course, on the motorway it gets even better, as high as 44, and on the dreaded point of yearly road tax, well, if you take the older Range Rovers as a prime comparison, some of those older cars, and of course not just Range Rovers, but they are a perfect example, are nearly £800 a year to tax. This, in comparison, is £345. Now, we mentioned earlier on that it has a full service history to its name, which of course is essential for a vehicle in the luxury segment, if at all possible. It also still has its original owner's book pack, and of course 2 keys intact. And speaking of ownership, you can clearly tell that its keepers have loved the car, because it's only had 3 owners from brand new in 2016. Further speaking to the care and attention which it's had both cam belts changed, as well as a new air conditioning condenser back in 2023. In other words, it's not just the bare bones or the basics of ticking boxes just to say it has that kind of history. It has been taken care of. Of course, the absolute laundry list of optional extras and features on these cars is far too much to go into here, and is part of the main reason why of course these were well in excess of £60,000-70,000 when new. But though we will touch on the most important ones, it has those self-leveling and self-washing adaptive xenon headlights with LED day runners on the front and LED lights on the rear, dual view touchscreen display with 4-zone climate control, that sliding panoramic roof, 12-volt power inputs with auxiliary, Bluetooth, in-control Wi-Fi, voice-controlled navigation, USB inputs as well, thanks to of course, and this is unsurprising for an Autobiography, a 19-speaker Meridian sound system, naturally adaptive cruise control for the motorway, and as we said earlier on, when it comes to fuel, these take long distances in their stride. Naturally, you have front and rear parking sensors with reverse camera built in, power opening and closing tailgate, high and low ratio transfer box if you do need to tackle the tough stuff. It is of course prepped with Isofix anchor points if you do plan to use child seats. So in other words, you have everything you would want from, on the one hand, a luxury car, but then combined with everything which you would realistically want from a family car as well, combined into not only one platform, but a platform which is under £17,000, still looks, drives, and even smells as good as this car does. As we often say, these cars really do not stick around for very long in our collection, so if you are on the lookout for one of these already, and this particular Autobiography catches your eye, then of course you could reach out regarding it via the email address shown here on screen, or of course you could give us a call on 01749 871 155 or via our mobile number of 07482 267 439.